fucking from slipping, then excuse me while I slip into something a bit more comfortable. Slancher, E-caps here out with a mantra. Conspired at the bankers and waxed all your tax on a 20 grand statue of Thatcher.
Welcome back to another extended artist interviews with Progress, and today we're going to be chatting to Scotland's finest rappers around called Tzusan. We're going to chat a bit about his latest album, Fizzy Milk, as well as a few other bits and bobs, and particularly the Scottish underground music scene. I'd like to get into that a bit as well towards the end. But yeah, man, how are you? How are you doing?
Hi man, not too bad. Yeah, just enjoying a bit of nice weather for a change. Yeah, man.
For sure. The first kind of question I have is quite broad. I like to ask quite like everyone. How did you begin in your musical career? Like, when did you start?
It's hard to pinpoint a specific bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I've been making tunes for a while now. I think there was a point where I got confident enough in my own sort of sound, and that I was like, right, that's the point. Probably around when I put my first album out, Bow, just at the end of 2019. That was probably the point where I was settled in, let's say.
Right. When did the vision for Fizzy Milk come about? I'm assuming it was quite a while in the works for you.
Kind of. I was like during the first sort of lockdown and that. After I did Bow at the end of 2019, I wanted to do a summer album. And then with lockdown and stuff like that, I basically wanted to make a bunch of sort of club bangers and like festival tunes. But because there was no festivals and no clubs, it kind of didn't happen. So I made Fizzy Milk instead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now the next one coming is going to be that summer project.
So with Fizzy Milk, you brought out a tape and a lyric booklet and stickers and all that sort of stuff. And obviously I have one here. It's been a very interesting time going through the album and actually reading lyrics and trying to understand a bit more of what you were trying to convey in the album a bit. And in the beginning, you have this paragraph where you kind of introduce the album, and there was one particular
sort of forward,
yeah. So there's one particular sentence that kind of struck out to me. Was you said, "I like the bleak weather. It brings out a reflective calmness in me, a certain stillness." How would you say kind of weather affects you and your mood? Is that something that you notice quite often?
I suppose, man. I musically, I sort of base my shit on like seasonal. I'm all about that fresh seasonal produce.
Right.
So yeah, I just it felt like quite a wintry one. I'm at like the studio that I'm in just now, down in sort of Leith. It's kind of there's a sort of big like empty industrial estate just out that window, like loads of gravel and shit like that, and it was just in the middle of the winter when it was fucking 2 feet of snow. I was down here till like 5 a.m. all the time, just putting finishing touches on and making tunes and mixing shit down. It's kind of just you get influenced by the shit that's around you. Do you know what I mean? And it was,
for sure.
Yeah, but it's definitely calm, man. Like in summer, everyone's enjoying the sun and getting pissed and try to go a bit mental. But during the winter, everyone just sort of hibernates. It's a good time to work on tunes, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one actually, because you have some more time to yourself. I think that definitely helps.
Yeah,
down lyrics.
Man, something like that.
Throughout the project, you name drop quite a lot of other artists, not just musical, but also, painters, film directors, animators, etc. How would you say these other sort of art forms have influenced your musical landscape a little bit?
Man, inspiration is one of those things where it's so shit's like elusive and intangible. When you get it, you get it and it pops. It's like, oh shit, yeah, I can do something with that. But you can't, I don't know, you can't really search for it. But I guess that's just a lot of shit that sort of inspired me or thought was cool or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I guess specifically one avenue of art form that I think is really prominent in your music is poetry. In fact, like Fly Like a Bulldozer, I would say that's more of a poem than a rap song in some regards, the way you kind of organized it.
Fair enough. I think the only like actual poem reference in it is on Belfast Harbour. There's a line about the night mail. Don't know if you're if that's a famous poem. It's about a train carrying the post from France to Glasgow, I think it is. Heavy old poem, man. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was or anything, but
right, yeah. So do you have kind of a deeper relationship with poetry? Like, do you kind of study that, or is it just coincidental?
Nah, not at all. I'm not a big poetry fan in any respect. Like, I like rap music to be a little poetic. The stuff that I listen to tends to be the more kind of let's stick with poetic. The more sort of poetic shit. But nah, I don't have a particular relationship with poetry. I used to hate poetry, man. There's a lot of like stuffy poetry that I fucking hate.
Right.
My dad actually writes poetry, so maybe that's why I hate it. But
yeah.
Continuing the family business in a weird way.
Yeah, man. Must be. There was another line in throughout the album that I picked out that kind of spoke to me a little bit, and it's if you lose your sense of purpose, you heighten the others, or the others are heightened.
Fly like a bulldozer.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on that actually a bit more? Because I think it's quite a profound thing to say.
Shit, it's just a bit of a play on words, isn't it? It's like, do you know when you would say like if someone goes blind, you get better hearing, like your other senses are heightened.
Yeah.
So then just like your sense of purpose is a thing, or so like you could say the same thing about your sense of humor or whatever, but
right.
Yeah, it's just the way I flipped it.
Yeah, fair enough. I just really related to it a bit.
But I guess like in sort of lockdown as well, like a lot of people were lacking that sense of purpose, and like there wasn't anything to do every day. You were just fucking stuck in your house on scrolling through fucking Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's something to it. I thought it was a nice line as well. That's why I put it in there, I suppose.
Ivor Cutler. You dedicated the whole song to him.
It's my Donny, right?
Yeah, what's your relationship with him?
Nothing much really, man. Like my mum was an Ivor Cutler fan. She loves a bit of Ivor Cutler. And I just think he's sick, man. He's got I don't know, man. It's just something that like I probably would have heard from my mum playing it or something when I was young. Just been like, what is that? Like he's such a weirdo. He's just like, I don't know. Yeah. There's something about him. He's like a cute little old Scottish man who says weird things. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's not to love about Ivor Cutler?
Talk to me a bit about Scoop Records. It's your little record label that you've got going on, and the collective, from what I see.
Founded Scoop, what? I'm gonna say, about 4 years ago now. Myself, I've got a bunch of other boys like Cleaver Hype and Dad I Beatnik, and Bounty District. Pata is another boy who's killing it at the moment. Man, it just sort of felt like the natural progression of things. Like the scene at the time, and it still is, even though it is getting better, up in Scotland was very like kind of divided and cliquey, and there was a lot of people making sick music, but just making sick music for no one to hear it, tucked away in a fucking cubby hole somewhere. And we started Scoop just as a trying to bring together a bunch of those people under one banner, and there's a lot of different kind of styles of music on it, from sort of hard grime and donk to like indie kind of guitar shit. So yeah, it's quite a wide reach, I suppose.
So it's not like a specific sound that you're going for necessarily. It's more about promoting the local artists there, I'm guessing.
There's not a specific, like, there was never intended to be like a specific sound that we were going for, but it kind of has evolved into a little sound of its own, if you know what I mean. I think if you listen to like the first compilations that we put out, it's quite disparate, and like a lot of it doesn't. It's just a weird collection of tunes. Whereas like more and more over the years, it's become like they all kind of gel together a bit better. Everyone's style was like borrowed bits of everyone else's style and sort of started to mesh together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So one of the things I'd like to talk about is actually the Scottish underground music scene, because I know a couple of Scottish artists, yourself, Kayak, and a couple of others.
Kayak has made some tunes with Carpenter as well, eh? I think they've done a couple of
yeah. How would you summarize the scene up there? Just kind of broadly speaking, I guess.
It's getting better. Like, it's definitely, like I said earlier, like in the past it's been quite disparate and quite cliquish and that. I think that's starting to change slowly, which is nice to see. But it's just a thing of again, I find a lot of the time, like in the Scottish scene, people are looking for approval and acceptance from the wider UK scene, or more specifically the English scene, really. Places like Brum and London and shit like that. Especially when it comes to hip hop and rap and fucking whatever, grime and all that shit. People look for acceptance from out there, when I think we should be kind of just doing our own thing in a way, do you know what I mean? And building up the Scottish scene as opposed to looking for acceptance elsewhere.
So in that sort of sense, when people talk about the English music scene, for example, I think it's less about the English music scene and more about, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Brighton, etc. So it's more regionalized. Do you think that sort of thing needs to happen with the Scottish music scene? It's like I just said, the Scottish underground music scene, but in reality, there are artists from, Glasgow, Edinburgh, all over the place.
I think that depends where you're looking at it. Like, there is a difference between like the Glasgow scene, the Edinburgh scene, and the Aberdeen scene, and Dundee or wherever else. I just say Aberdeen because it's quite busy at the moment. There's quite a few folk making moves in Aberdeen. But I mean, people from outside of Scotland would definitely, like you say, just be like, oh, the Scottish scene. And it is kind of, there is a level of that where we are all Scottish in it. Do you know what I mean? So like, yeah, of course, but like, yeah. I like that sort of unity about it though, as opposed to being like, oh, Glasgow scene, Edinburgh scene. It's just like, it's kind of a Scottish scene, and like, if people in Glasgow are killing it, then that'll inspire people in Edinburgh to kill it, and that'll inspire people in fucking Stornoway or something to kill it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, there is definitely a sort of power to being collected almost together.
Sure, man. And I think, like I say, people are starting to realize that up here, and you just starting to see a lot more like collabs between crews and shit like that, just kind of building it.
Yeah, which is great to see. I hope it keeps progressing, because there's a lot of interesting talent and music coming up from Scotland in recent times.
Yeah, man. I mean,
really, yeah.
There's a few bits for sure. There's a few bits
like yourself.
Ah, shucks.
So you mentioned that you're obviously in the studio right now. What sort of things are you working on at the moment as a solo act, and also maybe as part of the record label that you're with?
It's Bob's. I mean, there's a couple drops coming on the label. We've got another EP from Pata, who's a sort of Glaswegian, Brazilian kind of dubstep. Let's say dubstep producer, but I mean, it's not your standard dubstep a lot of the time. He's got elements of like sort of Byleaf favela funk in there, and yeah, kind of a wee bit dusty and stuff. Like, yeah, he's an interesting cat. He makes cool tunes. So that's
Yeah,
coming
sounds
up.
good.
He's got another EP coming. Another one of the boys, Dad I Beatnik, is working on a kind of lo-fi kind of in sort of blue-esque kind of release, which will be coming later in the year. I'm working on the summer album that I said earlier. So I'm just trying to get that out this summer. A couple of features lined up for it and stuff like that. So yeah, bits and bobs, man, bits and bobs.
Are you gonna also do physicals for it as well, like you did with Fizzy Milk?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely do physicals of some description. I'm hoping to do vinyl, but I don't want to jinx it. But there'll definitely be, tapes and some merch and stuff like we did for Fizzy Milk. I'm thinking of doing balloons.
Balloons, right?
Just for all my people with a NOS habit,
Yeah. I guess the final question to you is, we've already mentioned a lot of names, but who would you particularly like to shout out that you may be working with, or you'd think deserve, whether it's music or photography or?
Oh man, there's so many people who will want to shout out. People I'm working with at the moment. I'm working on a thing with Kid Robotic, who's a Glasgow MC producer. You should check out. He's sick. He does a lot more sort of like trappy kind of stuff. But we're working on a little EP that we'll have at some point ready to go. I've had Shogun in the studio recently doing some tunes, so we've got a tune coming amongst a couple bits. The Compound lads down in Brighton, I had them on my first album, and we've still got a couple of tunes that we're sitting on to put out, little collab numbers. I think they're looking at getting some other features involved on that as well, one for their thing. So yeah, man, bits and bobs coming out all the time, and obviously working with some of the boys at Scoop as well, like Carpenter and Technique. I'm producing an album for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, bits and bobs, man, bits and bobs.
Yeah, exciting. I look forward to all of that. It should be really good.
Ah, bless, man. Yeah, hopefully we'll pull it out of the bag.
Actually, there was one thing I forgot to ask you, and that is what is on your rotation at the moment? What are you listening to?
What am I listening to? Shit. What am I listening to? I've been banging a fair bit of Kojak. I rate Kojak very high.
Yes.
And the all of those soft boy records lads, I think they're doing something sick. I really want to see something along those lines come out in Scotland. Like, I think seeing those Irish boys do it to that level has kind of like put a fucking fire up the Scottish scene, just being like, come on guys, they're doing that. We need to fucking step it up a little. Yeah, I love their shit. But banging a bunch of like sort of lo-fi shit like that. Jaden Clover, I think she's Birmingham based as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Shout out Jaden.
Yeah, for sure. I've been renting a couple of her tunes. Yeah, she's fucking sick. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just listen to whatever's on. Do you know what else I've been banging actually? Fucking Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura.
Right.
She played Uhura in the original Star Trek series.
Okay.
She put out loads of like mad disco tunes and shit like that. I've been banging some of that.
Very niche.
Yeah, shit, mate. Like half the cast of the original Star Trek got lucrative music careers. Sample gold mine.
Wow. Yeah. Sick, man. Yeah. So, thank you so much for taking the time out to answer a few questions about your music. It's been really insightful. And yeah, like I said, looking forward to all the stuff that you're going to be releasing, the stuff coming from Scotland, all the collabs and everything. It's a really exciting time.
Yeah, man, keep an eye out. There's bits and bobs popping up north, man. It's we're getting there. We're getting there. It's going to be a lot of those dropping this year, definitely.